Yeah, I read pretty much in the ground and so probably we already at some time in the middle of
I know. Yeah. Yeah, the thing is, yeah, so I was so here. All right, let's see what Mosey had. Here we go. And I gotta do great. And all right, is my face in it? And so I So yeah, it was a very what is it?
Swallow that. So you guys, we have some people today, Rob, McKiernen, it's Todd, Cline, you know, I'm gonna take this paper, like, because global R&D. So, anyway, so, hopefully, like, I wanted to have this kind of discussion, maybe get some start to say, say something. I have a bunch of questions, so.
Give a bit more background for us. Yeah. So Ron McKiernen, 20 years. I'm a common scientist by background. I work very common science. I did use some polymers in my early years in the then I used corporate or this R&D. And then about a year ago, I switched into the role here for solid-based recycling. At that time, Cline, my two loves, by not being fun. So yeah, so I made a small lean tea on position recycling as well as solvent washing and more based on questions. That you might have some of the work that's been commercialized already about recycle technology. So that's in Ohio, the startup based on the RIT. And that uses for recycling polypropylene solvent. You basically get it molten, but not fully dissolved. You take out everything that didn't dissolve, and then you dissolve it, and you see that everything that didn't dissolve, and then you have to make pure polymer. Simple.
So what did you study? Where did you go to school?
Home science engineering, UMass Amherst, and UMass College.
I'm Todd Cline. I work in R&D as well. I say chemical engineering just down the road in Kentucky. So I think a PhD right out of my undergrad. I've been here 20 plus years, 30 plus years. Old, I've been here been there a long time. I am fairly new in corporate R&D. So for us, corporate is more upstream, enterprise-wide type of innovation work. I'm doing sustainability work there. The whole company, whether it's how do we hit our net zero commitment, low carbon footprint work, do a lot of work with Robin as her team on circularity. But before that, I spent the last 10 years or so working in our fabric care business. So I led sustainability for Tide for the last several years. Spent some time in the marketing organization, just came back to R&D this year. So whereas I think Robin will be able to go into great detail on some of the recycling processes that we've developed and how we think about circularity there. I've had responsibility for some of the package development of how do we apply it to high bottles, down bottles, high pods, and things like that as we think about plastics and circulation. So thanks for having us.
And so, Let me just, I have some questions. I have a bunch of questions. Maybe we just ask about that part. Can I get a job? I don't know.
Pretty simple. About kind of what we do. Yeah. So here's what I mentioned. So the campaign cycle, how it goes look like, right? You get a right idea, that's familiar with that. This would be version like you. And this would be the one that's
I have a question for you. Do you guys know about like virgin resin versus recycled resin? Because when I went to chemical engineering, we had no clue about that.
version new. Mechanical, usually either water wash, hot or cold, surfactants, sometimes some acid washes. You get that black because you can remove only so much. You can remove metal, you can remove things that float or sink. You still have dyes and colors and pigments. And where recycle or the first to do this, what we actually call it, internally, technology really, not only gets it to the eye, like new, but it also, in the experiments and the analysis, we're removing all those contaminants that you can't see. So the benzopherones, the pesticides, you name it, we do a lot of trace analysis to make sure that we're eliminating all the plant compounds. So that's one example. I would also say though that, and that's in our, not my section, but the community has is, but recycled plastic when we can. So let's also envision how we can design plastic items. So these are aerial tides, or they're tide. Aerial is tide in Europe, sorry. Cleaning pots. They have to be child-proof because little kids, and I'm here like rock for the too. The little kids like to put it up, it was candy, it was possible. This is the box paper version. And to open it, you actually need 2 fingers, and it's dirty, and then you can open it. So it's still child-proof. Paper,
So it's so with the so paper and plastic was disadvantage of paper, right? Like if it gets wet or something.
so there's disadvantages of everything, so we think of everything in the week. We're never looking at it more. So we will look at mechanical recycle, we'll look at paper, we will look at strong or lightweighting, so we're using light plastic, and then we'll look at some of these more advanced recycling. But paper, yeah, it can get wet. You also want to make sure it's recycled, and you need to flush out if it has some contaminants that are touching to it. If you want to put down new trees, you want to kind of have a renewable forest policy, especially for liquids. That is a problem, right? Then we get kind of a plastic coated paper a lot of times. But then depending on how much plastic you put on that or wax, then it's no longer recyclable. We want to make sure you don't ruin the whole purpose of it recyclable.
Yeah, so it doesn't have like these sticky labels that sort of peel that off.
You can, I would love that. Labels are a really big problem in recycling. We also have a technology that has a sample, but we're looking at replacing labels with laser marking. So that is external through laser, it's actually the name of the company. It is printing graphics and all the information you need to print it on the top of the bottle, as well as the back, so you actually get printed. And it can be done with color or with layer black.
So that do you use that for this identification labeling of the plastic?
So the laser one's not yet commercialized, it's still like 2000, not yet commercialized, so that would be 1 idea. We also have fully rail to do that.
So laser marker is all about just remove a label and do laser printing. So you can get brands might do keep the glossy front label on a package, but get rid of the back label and do the laser printing. And if you do that, you can save money. You cut a lot of contaminants out of the recycle stream if you get rid of the label, paints, the adhesive. Also allows you to make changes really quickly. If you're going to change your formula, it makes it much less expensive to change the ingredients that you can do it really quickly. So there's a lot of advantages of it.
Like 6 months, we want to change. Based on where the.
For a big company, but you mentioned Holy Grail. That's actually building digital watermarks into the labels and the package so that if you have an infrastructure where there's devices to read these watermarks, it gives much more specific sorting. If you've been to a sorting center or seen videos of them, it just gives you ultra precise sorting of different materials so that you can have even better recovery and more specific sorting of the symbols.
There's a website for Holy Grail, it's called Holy Grail website as well, right? Doctor Foundation, I would say. And it is doing a trial right now in Europe, but it's invisible to the consumer eye, and the lasers can read it and tell exactly what it is so that it's sorted. That is one of the key challenges we have in plastic recycling. What comes in is what comes out, and so the better you can have your sorting, the better the final product is.
They looked at like put an RFID chip. I mean, they're really small, right? Just that and
The other beauty of this one is you don't get plastic because it's from full piece, like it's cut up into.
oh, yes,
Yeah, and so this is the whole thing is covered with invisible coating.
I see.
Very cool. So last simple is a total product design. So this one is PC30. I think it is out there, Olay, Melts. Gems for shampoo and high Evo for laundry. But basically, these are liquid products that we remove the liquid from. And so this happens to be shampoo. Easy travel, it can now go in a paper recyclable kind of packaging. You're not paying for all the shipment or water in place. Very neat technology.
So how do you make a shampoo without, I mean, the detergents are just gooey, right? Are they crystallized?
So they are in there spun with fiber.
I see. Oh, yeah, she mentioned this before. You make that.
So a couple seconds in your hand and it'll slowly dissolve. And then you do this, you don't get lather like you never got before. So you don't have to put a lot in, get a lot out.
It's like polyvinyl fibers.
If you can shoot that, yeah.
Other questions?
So when you turn a product from like a liquid into those next spot fiber product, how does that affect the shelf life of those?
So we do testing 2 years required for anything, and 2 years to might be if it's medical, obviously, so food wipes, and over 3 years. We get accelerated as well as room temperature, so increasing your temperature, the humidity, we're international, so we'll take high temperatures, we'll take low temperatures, we'll settle 3 temperatures. You see that a lot with bottles and fractures, or failure. So we'll do nighttime lows and daytime highs to make sure that everything is still good.
So you guys gave up on bioplastics?
What's that?
Bioplastics like PCE?
No. So if you look at our commitments, that we've got in 2030, we've said we want 100% of our packaging to be either recyclable or reusable. And we want to cut our virgin resin by 50% per use for 2030. And then also we have our climate goals. So we have commitments are reducing the carbon footprint of the package as well. Bioplastics, like bio feedstocks, can be great on enabling reducing virgin petroleum resin and great on reducing the carbon footprint of the package. What's not great with some bio resins is they can't be recycled. So you make a package that it's out of the plants, but then it can't go into the recycling stream and ends up in the landfill. So we're still doing a lot of work in bioplastics and looking at lots of them. And once we want to go more, once we can drop into the existing recycle stream as well. So bio-based polypropylene, bio-based HDPE or bio-PET. So things that don't cause you to, well, it's bio, but you can't recycle it. We need the both, but it's bio and it can still work in recycling streams.
Right, if you see them walk away from the seat more than disposable.
Yeah.
But, homeowners, not a lot of people actually. They're finding to go where they are.
Well, I'm thinking diapers now, you would recycle, I guess, with. The whole thing is prototype from you guys.
Today, we have some, fall fiber, vendors out there. We bought, banana. Garlic banana, thank you, which is for, cloth base. We have 10 pair products as well as 8 pair products.
So you can see. So they good enough on, so you're still gonna manufacture polypropylene, polyethylene case, like those, and then you're also gonna have a product line that's very.
So you can, polypropylene can be spun into non-wovens, so you can use recycled plastic. And it's virgin light, so it's still, has to be used on baby skin.
Yeah.
So we are looking at that, like that's why I said we would like to have ethylene and propylene.
I mean, is there a demand for this, like to have a, say you made a PHP diaper, I think probably there's what you can, you guys did it, right? And then you kind of gave up on it. So, but you gave up on it, so it must be a reasonable line, right? Maybe there's no one, said it.
So we sold the Nodax, Nodax, that one became a private company, and still haven't selling, utensils, I want to say. So there's some work still going on.
And I have something to jam.
I would share.
But, anyway, was there a you don't know a reason, or was it just like?
So I would say, if I have my slide, my slides, the very first one is for anything to be viable in 3 things. So it doesn't need to be sustainable, it does sustainability in all our products today. It needs to be customer appreciated, consumer appreciated, right? It has to be better than superiority. We want to be the one or top 1 or 2 brands in a category. And then it needs to be financially viable. For us, for the consumer, for the Walmarts of the world, for the producers. So all of those 3 have to happen. If any one of them doesn't, we don't have a product.
Yeah, so there's no specific reason. Anyway, there's no competition, right? No other company came out with these rates.
Why is it also?
Yeah,
The business, model conflict.
Yeah. yeah, it's kind of weird. It seemed like a pretty good idea. I mean, I like this synthetic flavors, you know, when you have babies, but no. It's too much else in the field, yeah. And this is even I'll go forward with that.
So I know that like you guys have like your sustainability goals of like net zero by like, I think it's 2040. I've actually, you didn't need me earlier, but I worked at PCE a full-time author after the fact. And I've had a couple of process goals where my project was focused on more sustainability and creating like, sustainable product. And one of the main concerns from scaling up this product was worries about like heat, and the amount of energy that you were using, like the processes such as grilling. And with your pure recycled process, like, do you have those same heat concerns and energy concerns, or does the benefit that you make out of that completely offset like those additional requirements that we have in the process?
So we do a full life cycle analysis for our projects, and then the example of peer cycle, we also then have third party certified. So we are looking from cradle, not the grade, but to the series, to the bottom. And so we do look at that in the case of peer cycle in particular, we're making sure that it is better from a greenhouse gas standpoint than version. That is hard to look at base at all times. And then we're working down to get it as low as possible. So we start getting in estimates based plants, and as long as the person is on time, then we have a huge impact on your life cycle analysis. In the case of something that is heat reliant, then we're looking at renewable energy as well. That's also really big cover.
I guess, so this is, hypothetical, if you, it seems like a lot of your limitations come from trying to meet the consumer in the technologies and recycling methods that they have available. If you got to take your way with, your products and the recycling system, and everything, what materials would use and what kind of packaging method would that end up with? You got the full kind of your own process.
So. You mean, what would we use that had to be most circular? That's what we wanted, or what?
In like your ideal system, what would that look like?
I did. You wanna- Yeah, so I think the simpler that, and that's where it starts, design for simplicity for the consumer as a starting point. So something that when they're finished with it, they can feel confident, I just put this in the recycling stream. I would help you figure out how to get a string sleeve off of it, or figure out, this part goes there and this part doesn't, things like that. So simplicity for sure is one of them. I think for the then processors, because we have to get them to we have a really low recovery rate in the US, and it starts with the consumer just puts in a really small portion of what they could of recyclable stuff needs to go into the recycling stream. For the sorters, I think the fewer things we use when it comes to it makes it easier for us, the more sorting than you do into lots of little niche. It's I didn't see polyethylene that's orange, here's another that's I didn't see polyethylene that's green, and here's another that's clear, and getting down to the color and things like that. I think the more you can use simpler, fewer materials to make it easier for the sorters so that they have fewer losses, and also they just have fewer operating costs. That helps a lot as well. And we try to do that. We try to, we don't have 1,000 different materials we use some packaging from. We really started to coalesce down to it's fewer and fewer every year. Just coming from my fabric care days, we used to have some colored PET packages. We got out of those. We replaced them with high density polyethylene because that's recyclable everywhere. It's easy for the sorters. We're not trying to create a stream. So I think trying to simplify for the sorters is the other one. But the big one to me is just because we're so far behind them, consumer getting the liquid store, make it simple for them to do it. And also having to accomplish that it's going to be recyclable. I've been to sorters, I've been to converters. I guess you guys have sent your time visits to whether it's Monkey or other sorting facilities or converters that are making buses. It really happens. I mean, you go there and you see it. It's getting sorted and baled up, and then you go to other places, you see the bales come off, and they're going through the process to make resin. Recycling is real, but we've got a problem on belief with consumers because so much has been put out there. It's not real. So I think simple and just confidence with the consumer be my first for sure.
We emphasize mono-materials. So bottles and caps that are good as a material. So today, soda bottles are probably the most widely recycled, but they're PET caps. That's not it. They don't get separated to an extent. I would also say laminates, monolayer magnets. You're reading all the food wrap and food industry. I think I add metalize anything. Percenters. And say down aging, so we can thinner. Shape that's money, and if you can build the right properties in, so we do a lot of mitigating biology and how to make strength through patterns instead of adding more material. I would say I am a cage myself, but I do not miss the clamshells. So if we ever have the shaver, we cut the packaging, or maybe sometimes it's packaging still has this PET it's impossible to open. I always get myself on it. So we remove that and switch entirely to paper or so I love that. And then consumer habits, so more recycling. But also we do a lot about wash and fold. And how often we wash. Those are big levers that we don't really control. We can kind of
What is it called? To wash the last year?
so wash and fold is
Wash and
is to not have to use your
Yeah,
your laundry.
Yeah.
And actually wash every night, sorry, not wash that. Wash every night is for dishwasher. the life cycle analysis implies that is, better decision than doing and super washing.
That row. Sorry.
So, when I go to the market, now that I know about the recyclability of product, but when I do the same thing on my server, it's not, or when they go, they don't have those plastics that are recycled. And even with Google Ads, to you or something, we do not cover. But if a product is marketed, if it is recyclable, there is nothing written about the plastic. Like, you tell the features of the product, and you can also like the plastic is also kind of recyclable or something. That is not something consciously put in. Is there a reason behind it? Or
Yeah, we've done a bunch of consumer research. You know what we found, the main reason people buy laundry detergent for those. The guesses? Oh, get their clothes on, but that's why they buy it. So everything we can do is reinforce that with people on the package or advertising. It's all about how well will this work to clean your clothes, clean your floor, clean your dishes, teeth, hair, whatever. But we've also incorporated, it's called a how to recycle nomenclature. Are you guys familiar with that logo? It's on the back of the package. We don't put it on the front. We get people and they're making buying decisions. It's not usually for most people. There's a small percent. That's majority of people don't buy based on recyclability. But we have the how to recycle nomenclature on just about everything, at least in North America and Europe. It's really easy instructions on, all right, empty this bottle, replace the cap and put it in, or cut the shrink sleeve off and then put it in, or, you know, this is not recyclable, it goes in the trash, whatever it is, tries to make it easy for the consumer. There's a minimum size you have to make it, that way consumers can read it by being a part of the program. And it's generally on the back label price, and it is for most people, it's on lots of food products, for sure. But
And then so that once you can then do the spending back.
But the reason you don't see it as the primary message is just about the vast majority of people who are making choices on what they're gonna buy. The recyclability of just isn't about my phone. That's a driver.
because again, it goes in, even in our houses, even if you know it's recyclable, we can put it, but the same amount of people in the house, so it doesn't always go into
Yeah.
the place where it has to go.
Yeah.
And that's the reason. And the second thing, I just saw your pots, which you hold, like, you have been liquid out of it. So it is in a paper box, doesn't the fragrance leak through it or seep out of it? How is-
That sucker is really fragrant if you didn't smell it. And that thing is a year old. So it keeps, it is also, that happens to be sold to a consumer that's very stiff, savvy and really loves perfume. It's pretty much in my case, that really has.
Because normally when you look into product packaging, at least from what I have seen in they try tend to that the fragrance doesn't leak out of the packaging.
Yeah, so I think they're looking at how well filed the different products are at. I think she is actually the largest perfume maker in the world. It is not an area.
That pure cycle, recycling process where the, recycled polymer was almost exactly like the, virgin polymer. Obviously, it's not like 100% clean. What are some of the things that are, modified after the pure cycle?
It is actually so clean that we can go back and add in some things that the virgin would have.
Really?
Yeah. They remove a little bit of the lowest molecular weight and you remove a little bit of the weight. Removing antioxidants, you have to go back to the virgin as possible, otherwise they will yellow.
For the pure cycle, I know you guys take out all the additives and stuff, but how much do you lose of the polymer itself when going through the process?
Great question. It depends. It depends how clean and how much sugar you're left with it. So polypropylene is tends to be contaminated with polyethylene. And so that is the biggest one that we have to remove. And so there's a lot of action that's removed. They have two streams of byproducts that they make, that they then sell as well. I think that's reasons like cement making and things like that, so different use. But they are trying to remove the polyethylene. And the product I'm on now, where we are recycling polyethylene. No shocker, polypropylene is a big impact for us, and so we're trying to do that. Polystyrene, latex gloves, especially after COVID, those were a annoying contaminant. They don't like our solvents, they get very gummy. So there are things to remove, always making sure we remove paper, like metals, all those kind of things. And there are different stages where it gets removed. But, and then like I said, the lowest market rate and highest market rate get pulled out. But it is pretty good. Not to make money, it's not to make it worthwhile.
And then follow-up question, like, how does that or if you were to recycle it again, would you put it into like the mechanically recycling it a couple times and then go back to your recycling it, or?
So you can kind of do what we kind of recycling first. We have another technology that we have not, that we have disclosed but have not commercialized yet, called flexing. So mechanical recycling is pretty good for your widgets, because the mechanics tend not to absorb into them. Similar with polypropylene, it tends to not be such a big deal. When you're talking about flexible packaging, flexible polyethylene, we have more concerns with what we move in there in crash. And so we look at flexes, which is like a mechanical in that it's washing, but we're using solvent instead that has more affinity to those components.
I may have interpreted your question wrong, but I think that's, we could go between mechanical, like if it's.
Yeah,
Like
like
you make something out of pure cycle, can that then go to mechanical or does it enter back into pure cycle?
if it could have just keep going back, and forth, you know?
With pure cycle, you can just go back and forth. Every time it comes out of pure cycle, it's gonna be at its highest purity, but it's not a requirement. You can't take stuff that was mechanically recycled before, or pure cycle doesn't have to come back into pure cycle. You'll just always get cleaner recycling on the other end, use pure cycle.
Then you do a little bit of breakage, and especially in mechanical recycling, and the temperature is the breakage. So there is a right kind of to recycling.
So, I mean, your choice on when you put like the house recycle label is like based on like behavior. But have you guys like done any work with like trying to change consumer behavior more, like maybe putting like an infographic on the side of like the packaging saying like, hey, these recycling label back with the true reminder? Or is that something that's like not particularly feasible in a lot of different like manufacturing processes?
Yeah. If you look at the press today, it says recycle ready on the front of the package, because that was a big change there, going from not recyclable to recyclable. And the same thing with Tide Pods, when we moved it from the colored PET to HDPE, it's suddenly recyclable. We put call outs on there because it was a change. So it's something new for people. I would say where we've worked more as a company on having change is on how do we help people use products in the most sustainable way. So Rob mentioned our Tide cold water work, and it drove people very well as well. If you're doing a load of laundry, you're out of, making the raw materials, making the packaging, our manufacturing, all the transport, consumer use, things like all of it. Almost 70% of the carbon footprint is determined on what we choose, cold, warm, or hot. Going from hot to cold is a 90% reduction in energy. Warm to cold is the 70% still. So warm's not good enough. You need everybody to wash it cold. So we've done a ton of work where we partnered with WWF and its behavioral insight, scientific agency on behavior change. We're coming up with how do we nudge consumers to use cold, and a lot of it's about just interrupting them at the point where they're doing laundry. So we've got partnerships with Samsung, GE, who is the other, Hilux, or it's technically certified under the reminder every time the washing pole is trying to do it. It's on the package where they're dispensing the product from. So if they're pouring liquid or wrapping a pot or whatever, it's right there for them. So a lot of it's not interrupting when they're doing laundry, but also a lot of work on how do you make it big and popular. So I don't know if you guys remember, we did the Tide cold collars a couple of years ago with just a ton of stars doing funny cold calls about trying to convince people to wash on cold. They have a program with NFL. So how do you make it big so that everyone feels like it's a big and popular thing to do? So we've done lots on behavior change. There's been more about just helping people, use the dishwasher instead of washing dishes, wash on cold, or things like that to get to more sustainable use of products.
We're about to learn the facts. Yeah, that's fine. Security.
First, got to work with you to do it.
How do you tell how effective that is? Like, if people are actually washing on cold
Yeah.
when it comes down to it?
So we've got research from the book about 2009 or 2010, where we regularly do a 600 base size study. It's like every month that we do it. But this is asking people, how do you last 10 loads of laundry? How many run off? How many run over? How many do it? So it's not super precise with the how I describe it, but you can see changes over time, and they link directly to, like, in January of 2020, early January, there were 49% of loads done at cold. By March of 2020, it was 42%. That's a huge change in this tracking that we have. Any guess why it went from 49 to 42 from January to March of 2020? COVID. Suddenly everyone started watching on warmer temperatures because they were worried. We didn't know how it spread. The CDC was saying washing lines are the warmest temperature you're supposed to handle. So it picks up that response. Then a year later, we turned on all of our messaging about cold water washing. It put back up to 48% by the time we turned it on. But as soon as we turned it on, we quickly went to 59%. Now we're at 65%. We've set a goal of 75% by the end of the decade. So we have that ongoing every month type of measure. But we also now we get data from the washing machine manufacturers as well for the actual settings for consumers. Like hit the button, so we can validate results back to that as well. But we don't have that going back to like 2010. So as soon as the other, which is good, we got 100% of data.
I noticed your funding was on a set project, like, or something. It's kind of an odd thing, like, your agencies like partnering, do you know about that? Or?
Sorry, I didn't hear those.
Things being calling or something, yeah. So, I mean, that's kind of a new thing.
Quite a bit. That one.
It's AI calling or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one was, us working with, legislation and different folks trying to figure out what would make the biggest difference that also impacts the industry as a whole. So it's not just us, it's quite a few different companies. And then it's a multiplier. So we put in a certain amount, and then the government, we had other companies' money plus the government funding for that as well. So
Yeah, it's 7 million from the set, 2.5 from the group. Still, it's kind of, I mean, it's different.
actually, a service called Connecting Development. That is actually somehow also in our building position. And they do a lot of kind of bringing in outside work inside, figuring out homes outside, and they bring in work inside. And that has historically been more with startups or with universities. We're trying to get more of the government funding. We do a lot in Europe. Europe does a lot of funding, industry. The US just hasn't been much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like in the UK, though, I think the government, if you get some kind of grant with the company, the government matches it. Hey, I think some of those.
Yeah, so we went to university in Europe where, we basically for about a quarter of the month. And then students, it's a matter from students, because they usually, PhD or postdocs, and they get to basically come and they need to work on that PhD, it's a little experience. So it's the work of that.
So, yes, there's a bunch of different, your members in almost every plastic, whatever group, it looks like, when you look at those web pages, there's nothing that really has come out of it, right? I mean, like they're fancy, all of them have a really fancy web page. There's like all the companies that signed up. And like, I don't see anything like we built that's actually something that came out of it. Is there anything?
So one, I think we're trying to solve really big problems.
Right.
And are difficult. Two, with these associations, it's a lot of people that have to align and what's the direction and how to solve it. So I would not say they move at lightning speed. I'm with you. I think there's some good work underway on solving for potential solutions to flexible film recycling. But how do you build infrastructure in the US for keeping mono-material, polyethylene bags and wrappers and things like that? How can you set up collection of that? How can you sort it, get it converted back? Our goal there as brands is designed to make sure it's 100% pure polyethylene and then put PCR back into the thing so there's a market for it. But I think there's things like that where, yes, hasn't been solved yet, but I think big associations like that and broad coalitions can go a long way to help solve it, because there's no single company that has enough of the market of films that it makes sense for them to go solve it by themselves. But all of us kind of rely on being able to use films because they're low plastic, they're low carbon footprint, they're low cost. It's easy for consumers to use them, so we want to be able to use films, but we have to figure out a way to make sure they're circular versus they get used once and then there's nothing to get out of them.
I mean, it sounds like it's pyrolysis is what everyone's talking about, as far as the people who kind of come in. The answer is like, we have a magic way to deal with it, and we look at it deeply, well, the torture. I think that's one solution. Really friendly.
I think there's other ones coming along, because that's one of the beauties of Versavita, but Robin and her team lead, because you get this super pure material, but it's still plastic to plastic, and it's still low carbon footprint versus using virgin resin. So it helps you make progress on your climate commitments and also circularity commitments at the same time.
I think it really depends. So it's gonna be mechanical recycling, and it's gonna be solvent recycling, and it's gonna be chemical recycling, it's gonna be paralysis, and it's gonna be some paper, and it's gonna be some lightweighting. This is such a big issue, there's no one solution, it's gonna depend on each case by case. Paralysis in particular, super helpful, like the more complex your starting material is, more likely
Yeah. And I think the answer is just kind of funny how they frame it up, like, oh, we have this like Lyondell, what's the secret method, you look carefully at it, I mean, someone's been around since 1940s, it's like not so secret. You put it in a high pressure and high temperature and no oxygen. Anyway, so you guys never, so locally within Cincinnati, you have like Funky, Lyondell, Cline, you guys, you see maybe a bunch of other companies, like all your suppliers, right? Like, why haven't you like gotten together? Like, I know globally, nationally, even with, I think you're even working on a event, I think I saw someone on the work pages. So, but like, as far as, like, it seems like there's a pretty good, like your suppliers in town or within the region, and then love to read, it's like one of the leaders, it's like, so why not have something going on here, so that I will something, nothing like that's going on. Or even the EPA here.
So, nothing that I'm aware of. I can tell you, I was part of the group that UC was also with through centrifuges. And we were looking at how do we run some pilots with large companies. And one of the ideas we had was around cabbaging, tractable water washing, and doing something with your bitter chill. How do you message people in their utility bills about the benefits of, you know, choosing gold and how much money you can save and that sort of thing. But it's just, it was hard for them in their industry to do it. So we've tried to do some things. I think we're open to doing things. We were part of an application that someone from here put in for a grant from, or where, but it's one of the professors here, but it was a collaborative across the region on reducing water and energy usage. We thought there was a role we could play from a consumer habit standpoint. So I think we're always open to it. I just don't know that the right.
I mean, to me, it's
complex
not
long.
It's kind of a unique opportunity in some ways, you know, because there's a lot of history in town, a lot of it's geared, a lot of it is geared to supply P&G with tax, right? So, like soaps and like the fatty acid process, I remember all these companies. Anyway, there's a whole slew of things that could be put together. It just seems like it doesn't. There are some like. I don't know. Yeah, so, yeah, we have products to go in, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I sent this to somebody who might know, I think a case manager, looking at a NSF grant for a different project, also in project, so we do, public reference.
Yeah.
I would say, Pure Cycle, like I mentioned, is a, spin-off and not a partnership. But now as we're looking to reapply the technology to polyethylene, we are partnering now. Polyethylene turns out to be a lot harder to recycle. And that happens to be one of the players in there, so it's just a good fit. And I don't consider them a supplier, I consider them fully partner.
Yes.
In general, we're not really integrated, we don't make our own platforms.
Right.
And so a lot of times it's also just connecting our model makers. Sometimes we don't even know how we're producing. So like mechanical recycling, we try to have them, you know, we try to know what kind of grades are there, which ones of things that they use in the process, and make recommendations on how to supply.
Yeah, it's like the value chain. But you're, these organizations are doing that, I think, but not necessarily the regional, it's like, well, like, you know, if you get a collection here, they could do like the whole 9 yards in one area. So
We've been parts of regional tests. We just haven't done one here. Because I know we were part of one for flexibles, collection and sorting, and I want to say it was in North Carolina or Pennsylvania. I know in Europe we found a couple of smaller country specific things like Belgium, trying to prove out different technologies for sorting or conversion. So
there's a lot more appetite. I mean, it makes sense to do it in Belgium. Well, you have the regulations too, right? Any other questions?
You mentioned, polymer lightweight a few times. Are you primarily looking to do that through some kind of filler additive or more through actual like product design, like thinning walls? Okay.
I think the walls that you use one, but then you still rent the high wall, you've got to kind of trying to drop it. And so they are a little bit more design, to the foam, and to the back fillers. You gotta make sure you have fillers or foam or anything that is still recyclable.
Yes. One of the places I go on that they're a custom carbon company, and one of their big like sustainability claims in their polymers division is like, well, if it's a higher percentage of calcium carbonate, then it's less plastic, so it's more sustainable by default. And you know, does something like calcium carbonate additive affect its cyclability by traditional methods?
So yes, when you look at recycled, or when you look at the plastic you're going to recycle, the recyclers get more money if it's clear or white. We call it more natural. If it's colored, then that seems to be a lower value. And that's because mechanical recycling in particular, that have a lighter color, lots of that gray, black kind of color. And the dioxide, calcium carbonate, you see a lot of those. In the case of something like, if there's going to go over, we do it with that.
So how much interest is there in product lines where consumers are able to refill their containers? So.
Huge interest. There's sound salt, we've run lots of tests, and has anyone heard of Beaucage? I've seen that program before. It was like stainless steel containers. We had a bunch of brands in it. There were food brands in it, other editors in it. And I think all of the consumer goods companies and all of the retailers are trying to figure out, is there something we can find A, consumers love to do, and B, it makes financial sense for everyone to do it. Because there have been attempts at doing refill stations in stores. So, which sounds like a great idea, but unfortunately, I think most consumers, if they've got a choice of either, just picking something up and going, especially if they can, they feel like, I'm recycling this, I'm doing my part, I don't have to do anything. Versus doing that in store, especially if you're shopping for lots of different things, so actually refilling everything in the store. And then two, there's a lot more labor involved if suddenly you've got a refill station in the store. Stocking it, cleaning it, dealing with spills, all those sort of things. Does that come from the person selling the product there? Is it the person that runs the store? Does the consumer pay for it? Just like, where does that all come together? So there's been lots of experiments, I would say every one of them has failed. Trying to find something more at scale, lots of people like to do it. There's small operations, like there's a couple of great stores downtown that are refill focused and they're awesome. I love them. But it's not like they're replacing Target, Walmart, and Costco, and Amazon with that. We need to figure out the ones that people will do at scale. Because California put a regulation in place for their it's extended producer responsibility, EPR. Is that something you guys talk? So in their EPR legislation, they have set a minimum threshold for how much of the product sold in stores has to be refillable or refillable use. So it starts at 2%, I think in 2027, and maxes out to 10% for 2032, which sounds like 2%. But when you look at 2% big categories, like figuring out how does 2% of something like Tide or Coke or Pepsi suddenly be refill reuse, a massive undertaking. Then getting to 10% by 2032. I think we all want to figure out how to make it work, but we haven't found a way that consumers.
Is something like where you can buy and trade, like Tesla sells green car credits, or like Chrysler or something, maybe you can just buy the credits.
Well, the credit would have to get generated somewhere that someone did refill reuse.
Yeah.
And buy that credit from.
Yeah, when I was in college, long time ago, we had a co-op, and we did that, and all the stuff that was there, you remember the co-op, it was like cheap, and even all of it was like a culture, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, there's pockets in every city of people who love doing it.
Yeah.
But we just need to be able to do it at scale where people love it.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, right, it's almost like you have to brainwash people or something, like somehow.
It's gotta be better than what they can do about this. It's either, it works better than before, or it's better value than before. Something's gotta be better, especially in the J.
We did it because we were brainwashed. It wasn't, it's
It was on the fish concept or the day concept, like, I'm gonna go refill some.
just like a subliminal, whatever, manipulate. Someone asked, I think you guys don't do, but anyway, Another case, oh, all right, okay. Why can't you put Tide pods on the cartons? So, like the plastic.
Yeah.
Tide pod, very.
So you can, it's the simple answer. We started with it in Europe, because the main reason we started there, number one, that green thermoform plastic was not recyclable. In the US, Tide Pods packages are recyclable, so we had a big problem to solve immediately in Europe. We scale a lot of things across regions and we learn, and I can tell you consumers like it. Here, there's different regulations on the child proof that have to be solved to be able to do it here, but someday you will see some portion of the business in that, so. But it started in Europe because that package in Europe is not recyclable.
Have you seen any pushback from your consumers with changing the packaging at all, or are they more receptive because it is now recyclable? What's it look like? Yeah.
So like in the Tide example, when we went from PET to HDPE, it looks like the shape is the same, it operates the same. It's just a little more matte finish to the glossy. And the business is continuing to do well. So I don't know that that was even a fair assessment because there's so little change for the consumers. For that change in Europe, from the that crappy thermoform tub to the really nice paper box, consumers like a lot more. So I think it's all about, if you're gonna make a change that's noticeable, make sure it's one that they like better, not one that they like worse. We switched from just a basic bag type box for itself that's not in the tubs to a bag that has a child resistant closure. And it's a really hard child resistant closure to use and people mistake. So we heard a lot about that. Our tubs business heard a lot because people quit buying bags and switched to the tubs.
I think we see a lot of pushback on gray bottles, like they're clear or colored. And so a workaround for that one is to often do layers. So the outside layer can be still both like what they're used to, but 90% of it is have to be recycled.
Concerned when designing new childhood packaging for people with some kind of disability where they can maybe not grip as hard or maybe have falling over their hands.
Yes, we have a whole section that is looking at different things. So also this is pretty widely stuff way beyond the initial anything that we do use. I would say in school actually the classroom you see maybe live trying to redesign Swiffer for the elderly. So it was hard, you can't get it off the hook when you go to buy it, but then how do you assemble it and all of it? It's pretty complicated, pretty eye-opening. So we're all
So when we do child resistant closures, we try to make it more about cognitive than like strength. So when we do child resistant closure testing, part of the protocol is we have to do it with kids to see if they can open up. They can't open it a certain amount of time, and you show them how to do it, so they can do it. Then we've seen it, but we also do it with elderly as well, to see can you open it without a problem. But yeah, it's a delicate balance. Make it so that you can't open it, but still make it easy to open. Tough trade-off.
I have a question on transportation. So if you're making paper packaging and that's something which is an integrator or something, that's slightly tight for it. How do you use the transportation?
So transportation and trucks from our plant to,
Yes.
cool.
It's
Yeah. Generally, our things are in outer cases to help protect it further. But with that thermoform tub, when we went to this, we were able to eliminate a bunch of the secondary packaging because this can sit on a pallet and be stacked on top of each other. So it actually provided help in the total amount of packaging in addition to, but yeah, you have to design for, you know, load bearing and how it's gonna be stacked and all those sorts of things. Yeah, yeah, usually at the pod leagues, that's not due to the package, it's something that happened in seal through this movie.
But during transformation and trust, like temperature is not regulated. So to the point, but that also comes on the packaging.
Yeah, yeah, it has to be, I mean, Robin talks about, we cycle through freeze thaw and, you know, high temperature, low temperature, as we assess packaging and also the products, just make sure they can make it through the supply chain. I worked in our food bev business long ago, we saw that, and I know there were stores, I wasn't part of the business yet, but when Pringles were launched, the cans were like exploding as they went over the passes in the Rockies through the changed air pressures. All of it had to be much stronger bonding on the seals and the caps because they were all playing on.
What's the biggest challenge preventing launch of Tide Evo in the US?
Money, I mean, that's the first one, it's expensive. And you can't make that on the equipment you have, so it's all new capital, and it's really expensive to build that. So that's one, is how much capital do you want to go on, so I've already started in Colorado first. And part of it also is learning consumer demand on it, so that's going to be focused in market in Colorado. But also just learning how to get our manufacturing lined out and reproducible and we can make this stuff consistently to supply the test market. So we've had all that going. I think fairly soon we will have access to it. Initially, that's we announced it's going much broader soon, but not everywhere in store. And it's just going to take time to be able to. We want to make sure we're really certain of how much demand there is, when we're going to invest that much money to make it. And it'll change over time. Like Tide Pods, we started with one, we launched too soon, and we were always behind, and we were on what's called allocation, we couldn't ship. So Walmart would say, I want this many cases, we'd say, that many minus 30%, Target would say, it was just awful to have to manage that. So we want to make sure we don't repeat the Tide Pods much, and we've got to work to understand demand and our manufacturing operations. So, you know, we will get there. The Tide Pods launched with, I think, 4 lines. Now there's, you know, many multiples more than that as it's going over time, because typically these things don't launch and suddenly they're 50% of the market. They grow over time.
One more question. So thank you. Thanks for having us. Anyway, oh, you want to talk after this?
Well, yeah, undergrad, recruiting as well. Do you think it is implemented well? We are accepting applications for the careers.com. And we always have to do that.
Thanks for your